Welcome to our second town hall for the Facilities Master Plan. This is really, for me, a very exciting day. It's not often that we get to look into the future and see what's going to actually happen. But indeed, that's what we can do today. But it's a future that you've created because it's your ideas that have gone into this. What we're going to see today is how all of your ideas have come together in a proposal for where buildings, roadways, courtyards, everything physical about the campus, how that will be located in the future as we look to the 25,000 FTS campus. But we're also going to hear what's happening now in terms of building projects, what's going to be happening in the short term, as well as this long-term future. So to get things moving, let me introduce President Morales.
Thank you. And I really want to express my appreciation for Jeff's leadership of the committee. You know, he's done a great job. Thank you, Jeff, and certainly Doug and his team and our consultants. I'm really glad you're here today. This is really a very important meeting. We'll repeat today's meeting tomorrow. We're really trying to reach out to as many members of the university community. I know many of you have attended the meeting last November, where you had an opportunity to comment on 3 versions of a campus-wide master plan. As I explained then, it is essential that we adopt a well-thought-out master plan today if we're going to be able to accommodate the 25,000 students, staff, and faculty who will be studying and working at Cal State San Bernardino tomorrow. After receiving your comments, our master plan consulting firms, RTKL and Assemblage, have been working with our campus planning steering committee and the university executive committee to create a draft master plan that incorporates the best and most widely favored elements of the 3 alternative scenarios that you have reviewed. I think you will be very excited by the results. It's an exciting plan that presents a comprehensive and clear path forward for our future. Most important, we believe the plan will create a real sense of place and a proud identity of our campus. The plan integrates the near-term projects that are already moving ahead for new student housing and a dining commons, as well as an expanded student center, an expansion of the College of Extended Learning, a large surface parking lot north of the library, and improved athletic facilities. Today, we will be sharing a roadmap for our future. In a few moments, our consultants and members of the planning team will present the draft master plan, which reflects the input collected at our 2 previous campus open forums and through extensive discussion with our staff and faculty. Based on reactions to this draft master plan, including the comments you give us this afternoon, the process will move forward with the draft master plan soon evolving into the final CSUSB long-term master plan. By the way, this long-term master plan is exactly as its name suggests, a plan to create new facilities, a new campus environment over a period of a good many years. However, our campus population is growing rapidly, with this year's enrollment the largest in CSUSB, well, actually the largest in CSU campuses system-wide, and certainly the largest here at CSUSB. In addition to the long-term plan, we need ways to accommodate the growth that's already taking place. So we've asked our consultants to also assess solutions for our most immediate needs. There are several good ideas already under consideration. For example, we are discussing the creation of a satellite downtown center in San Bernardino, which could be linked to the main campus by public transit or a dedicated shuttle service. So I serve on the City of San Bernardino Strategic Planning Committee, the committee that will take the city out of bankruptcy. The university will play a very important role educating all the residents of the City of San Bernardino regarding the new charter. So I was at a building, 200 Northeast Street, very attractive building with a parking lot attached, very, very attractive space, and certainly there has been interest expressed by some members of our university community to explore at least a downtown center. Another good proposal involves increasing the size of the currently planned expansion of the College of Extended Learning. A larger facility would give us space for new classrooms and large lecture halls, which could be shared by the entire campus. And because the College of Extended Learning expansion is now in process, with preliminary approval for funding already in place, these new facilities could be ready in as little as 2 years. As I said when we met last November, this is a time for us to think big and dream big. As I travel to other CSU campuses and I marvel at the wonderful facilities that exist at other campuses, I often wonder why not CSUSB, right? We're undersized in our library, we're undersized in our rec center, our commons, I can go on and on. You know that, you live it every day, our students live it every day. So I think we need to think big, we need to be aspirational, and we need to dream big. Thank you for helping us move the master planning process to its current stage. And please keep in mind that today's forum will be the last formal opportunity to offer comments and concerns regarding the draft plan. So I encourage you to share your thoughts and ideas. This is an exciting time for Cal State San Bernardino. I'm certain that future generations of Coyotes will be grateful to all of you for your interest and involvement in the future of this great university. And so when you go back to your office this afternoon, encourage your colleagues who were unable to make it today to join us tomorrow. And then, of course, on March 7th, Monday, March 7th, we will be out in the Palm Desert campus. I was there last night. It was a late night for me visiting with our students and faculty at our Palm Desert campus to begin the process of envisioning our 177-acre campus out in the city of Palm Desert. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. My name is Richard Thompson. I'm principal with Assemblage, and we're partnered with RTKL in developing this master plan. I wanted to introduce my colleagues, Noam Maitlis in the back from RTKL, and Jonathan Linkus from RTKL as well. A lot of these beautiful drawings you'll see are from his hand, and we're really proud of his hard work. And my colleague Craig O'Connor from Assemblage is here as well. After this, I'll try to keep this fairly quick, but I'll go through an overview in this presentation, after which we have a short video that will give you kind of an overview, a fly-through, if you will, of the campus. And then we have all of these boards which you've kind of gotten a quick look at. We'll be available to answer questions and take your comments. I think we're here until 4 o'clock today. So with that, I'm going to start. At the last forum, if you recall, we presented 3 alternative approaches to the master plan. We took comments, we tallied those comments, and based on this feedback and the work with the steering committee and administration, we basically came up with, we call it initially the consensus plan, which was kind of a composite of the various best components of the 3 master plan alternatives, and that will evolve into the draft and then the final master plan. just a reminder of the kinds of things that we heard from the campus during the course of the first and the second forum, was that there was a need for, they wanted us to look at ways to connect this community, the campus community, as well as the surrounding community, to look into sustainable issues such as renewable energy, and what do we do with all the lawn we have. It's kind of unsustainable, particularly, we like to think we're coming off the draft. That may not be true necessarily. There's also a need for individual study group areas, both indoors and outdoors. Outdoors obviously need shade, maybe Wi-Fi, and other things that would support groups gathering and studying together. Athletic facilities, both small and large, are really a big need on the campus. Baseball plays their games off campus, for example. And I mentioned the gathering places with amenities, food and beverage cafes and carts, so that you don't have to walk all the way to the commons to be able to get something to eat on the campus. And as you'll see in the plan, ultimately we plan for a second dining commons in the north part of the campus to serve that area, and a new area of housing there as well. Pedestrian-friendly walkways, that may mean shaded with solar energy or trees or just trellises. And then courtyards and covered spaces. I think, as you can see, 3 out of the 4 of these things have to do with making better outdoor space, so that in this climate, we can use it better. So just a quick reminder of the 3 alternatives. The first one was, we called it eco districts. It was an idea of creating new buildings and districts that would be focused primarily on sustainability in their orientation. In this case, a second housing village was placed all the way up the north. And then those blue buildings represent what we call a discovery park, if you recall, which is kind of an innovation center similar to the one they have at Cal Poly Pomona, where it's a public-private partnerships. They come on campus, build the buildings, and the idea is that they're related to academic programs on campus, so they may be employing either faculty in research efforts or students in terms of work efforts. So we placed that in the north part of the campus here, northeast part of the campus. The second alternative was called the Creative Corridor. It was kind of creating a main street along Coyote Walk, so where we would concentrate all academic buildings. And so everything you see in red, obviously, is academic infill, and it would be concentrated there, so you create kind of this main street in the campus, in the heart of the campus. We pulled the Discovery Park out to the front door of the campus, perhaps as a major new entry. In this case, the housing went sort of northeast of the library. And then the third option was a series of kind of clustered courtyards that built on existing areas of academic discipline, like clusters around science or around art or around education and so forth, so that we were reinforcing existing areas on the campus. And in this particular alternative, we pulled the housing out to the front as a front door, and then the Discovery Park was all the way up here in the very north of the campus. We evaluated those, as you remember, everybody put dots on the components that they liked of each individual grouping. And one of the favorites, of course, was the Creative Corridor, or the Main Street, where we concentrated the academic elements along that main street. There was also a focus on a particular landscape plan that kind of concentrated pathways and courtyards in that same fashion. And out of all of that, I'm kind of skipping over that because I want to get to the real meat of our discussion today, and that is what this consensus plan looks like. This is that same drawing that shows what that would look like. And in this case, as we said, the Creative Corridor was a very important component. The Discovery Park was all the way at the north. Housing would be here in this location, and then new gateway housing here, pulled back a little bit so that there was kind of a parking buffer between the community and that housing. And then obviously the rec center expansion, a new conference hotel, new dining hall, second dining commons here, and then a series of strategic parking lots that I'll describe in a little more detail as we go along. But you can see that all of those uses basically total up. I mean, we've now put this into the computer, done the calculations to see if we're matching our goals, which, as you recall on the second board over there, set out some objectives for specific space needs in a series of categories that will be required to be able to accommodate 25,000 students and faculty staff. So obviously the yellow is housing, the red is the academic and various components of that. Student support is this kind of purplish color, SMU here, rec center here. This is physical education. And then these are the sort of brownish color are new parking structures. And this would be the Discovery Park or Innovation Park. So what that, it basically creates a kind of a main street and a neighborhood street. Main Street is obviously Coyote Walk that runs through the heart of the campus with kind of terminuses at each one so that you reach some destination. In this case, the athletic fields, rec center, and the dining hall. At this end is the Discovery Park and the Arts District here. And then Sycamore Walk, the residential walk, kind of connects all of the housing. It's like a neighborhood street in a way with a second dining hall and there. And then I'll show you in a second a series of connecting sort of east-west pathways that go through the campus to connect both from the parking into the heart of the campus from both north, east, and west. And as you'll notice, each one of these major pathways is terminated with a parking structure, with a lighted kind of elevator, stair tower. So when you're walking in the evenings, you know where you're going. There's a destination point. When you arrive on the campus, you have a direct pathway into the campus that gets you to various destinations. Those little entry plazas would be where you'd have signage and would tell you about public transit, access, and other kinds of things going on campus. So it's a way to help with wayfinding or finding your way on campus. Just a series of diagrams, the land uses basically, and those two starred elements are the two dining components. Dining obviously is a big focus on all campuses, and so by distributing them on the campus in such a way that they're serving two distinct, distant ends of the campus, we really do provide it in the right locations. Each building is noted here in terms of their use. This, for example, is the new CEL location just north of the library, again along Coyote Walk. A series of fine arts and science buildings around the courtyard, new courtyard here along the Coyote Walk. And then this would be the new SMSU expansion here, new library expansion. And as you can, in the housing, as I mentioned before, would be distributed in a sort of a housing village here, a second housing village, and then kind of this gateway housing, which we envision kind of as apartments that could be available for young faculty as well as upper-level students and graduate students. I won't bore you with this. The numbers are basically a way that we keep track as we go along to make sure it's our way of measuring as to whether we're accomplishing the goals we set out. And we're, you know, maybe 30,000 off one way or the other in terms of the overall 1.2 million square feet in all of the categories that we will need to provide going forward. We've also listed out the housing, and it in a series of other more complex tables, it has the number of floors, the footprint of the building, and so we really have a way of tracking all of these things going forward. So that's those elements, and then we also looked at what kind of reinforcement we are doing to existing academic districts, and I can't read this, but obviously this is science, behavioral sciences, this is arts, this is a continuation of arts and performing arts, this is business, physical education, and of course education. And again, along that same major walkway. Now, this is the parking layout and pedestrian circulation and vehicular circulation. So we still maintain the loop road. We still built on the existing Coyote Walk and the existing Sycamore Walk that's here. But we're also emphasizing, again, those two components, but also these two elements that go east and west. And as you'll notice, they terminate in parking structures, both north and south and east and west. So you have a clear way of finding your way in the campus once you get out of your car. And since they're all on the loop road, they obviously make access internally very easy as well. We're also changing the way we circulate into the campus right now. Right now, you come in here and you can turn left or right and go into parking. And it creates this really messy conflict between pedestrians and automobiles and buses. So by simply eliminating that connection, east and west, this turns out to be a bus turnaround drop-off and car drop-off only. You enter either here or here. There would be a new entrance here. We're suggesting you would enter this parking structure there. You would enter here. You'd enter this parking structure, or you could enter here. This one comes in. There's a bus drop-off here, turnaround, which then serves access into the campus and the rec center and so forth, as well as the athletic functions, including the new football and baseball stadiums and so forth. So the parking, well, there's a stadium, but not a team necessarily, but you have a facility that would be, yeah. Soccer, okay, soccer. Well, that's football, depending on where you are in the world. So, and then we're beginning now to develop more intense landscape concepts. And by the way, this is our first take on the plan, and it's meant to share with you how all of those three plans came together based on your comments and the feedback from the steering committee and so forth. There's a lot more work to do to flesh these things out, but you can begin to see what the framework is that we're going to be building on. And so a lot of the comments we heard were smaller, more shaded, sort of courtyards rather than the big expansive courtyards we have now. So the buildings have been infilled in such a way that it creates a series of these smaller courtyards. And in a way, that's where we would see the more shaded, lush landscape areas, and then we'll try to look for more sustainable ways to plant some of the other areas. Obviously, we wouldn't touch the sort of signature lawn area of the main sort of campus quad with its terminus of Fowle Library. So we're trying to build on what's here and what's treasured on the campus as we move forward. I show this diagram because we're just beginning this now, but this is one of the elements we're going to be looking at. That light green is basically all the turf areas on campus. It's over 4 million square feet. So the idea is we want to try to reduce that so that we save water. We don't want to just turn it into gravel or something, so we're investigating a lot of different kinds of plant materials that are more sustainable. Here you can see that we've still got a lot of work to do on this, but the idea would be not that those other areas would be unlandscaped, but they wouldn't be lawn areas. We would concentrate the lawn areas in these smaller courtyards and in the student housing areas, for example, and of course in the main lawn. And then we're looking at different kinds of, creating a series of zones that would be zero water use, sort of moderate water use, and so forth, and then lawn areas. So we'll have a series of plant materials that will fit into each of those zones, and we'll be defining those as we go along. This is the illustrative plan, another beautiful drawing by Jonathan. That you can see, it doesn't designate just yet what the new buildings are, but you can begin to see the texture of the campus. And if you think about what's there now and what we're infilling, it's much more dense. It means that getting between buildings is going to be shorter in time, and if we are successful in getting the shaded sort of connections between them, this is going to be a much more comfortable place to come to school and learn and to teach. I want to go through a series of views of the campus. This is obviously the view as you drive in now with parking lots on both sides, University Hall, Fowle Library, and this is what we're looking at in the future, where we still maintain that precious kind of vista to the library, which is kind of the signature of the campus and has been since the day the campus opened. But we're kind of improving some of the landscape, This is the gateway housing that kind of continues to frame that entry and that view into the campus, we think creating a much more exciting and interesting entrance into the campus that befits a campus of 25,000. This shows a new performing arts center here with a kind of lobby and a plaza out front so that events can spill outside. It's at the front door. It's near parking. You can see it when you come in. You know where you're going. And if ultimately an admin is moved into University Hall, then that's also at the front door, if you will. This, for example, this parking structure here, entry plaza with signage that would direct you to either to administration or over here to performing arts or wherever else you might be going. This is a view above University Hall. This is kind of Sycamore Walk as it exists today with the parking and the drop-off here, Powell Library. And then this is kind of an enhanced Sycamore Walk that is framed with housing all the way along, screening the parking structures from kind of everyday view, and creating this kind of residential street connecting both Housing Village up in the north here and the Housing Village, which is just here. This, of course, is the SMU expansion and the library expansion here. Now we're coming around and looking over the top of Jack Brown Hall. This is the turnaround drop-off that exists now. I've forgotten the name. I can never remember the name of this road when it comes in. I'm sorry? Coyote Drive. That should be easy. I should remember that one. And then this is the rec center here, hidden behind those pine trees. And so in the future, with the rec center expansion, that would come out here to the right, creating a courtyard for a new pool here. This is at the terminus now of Coyote Walk. The new dining commons facing out onto a new South Plaza, Jack Brown Hall, and this is the Phase 1 housing, which, as you know, is getting ready to start fairly soon. Now we're looking along Coyote Walk with Powell Library, College of Education. Here's Coyote Walk. And then this is the new expansion of SMU, bringing it up to Coyote Walk so it links with it. And the idea is that there would be on the ground floor probably some kind of a food service cafe that would spill out with seating along the walkway. Second and third floor could be meeting rooms that have these beautiful views of the mountains. So it's pretty exciting with a courtyard in between. In between the new library expansion and SMU, so that meeting halls and banquet halls would have a courtyard to spill out onto and breaks and in between. This location here just north of the library is for the new College of Extended Learning. One of the things in talking with the dean and the steering committee was that the international students in Yasuda Hall are kind of isolated from the rest of the campus. So as they expand and it has other shared uses in it, it should be more central to the campus. So we're bringing it into the heart of the campus. The ground floor would probably be large lecture halls. We can probably get about 10,000 ASF square footage that would be available for shared use. So it would be classrooms, large lecture halls, large classrooms, and so forth. And then this would be a future science building, could be connected to existing science there, obviously College of Education. Now this is parking lot in, the new parking structure will be going in. In the long distance future, this is kind of a last spot we have located for a parking structure at that point. That probably is 20 years out from now, but moving along Coyote Walk to the north, this is obviously the Fine Arts Complex here. This is a little we're like standing on the roof of behavioral sciences here. We're creating another academic sort of courtyard up here, some of which might be future arts buildings, other just general classrooms, or it could be science. An expansion of the museum. They have a concept for this becoming a kind of a joint study area, exhibit area that students would have Wi-Fi and seating so they could come inside and be cool, get a taste of the museum, be right along the walk. So again, We envision all of these buildings to have kind of a glazed, at least first floor, so that they're really inviting, and you see what's going on, and you're drawn in. And this we're looking at as an enhanced kind of, we call it a bioswale, but it's a more natural landscaped area that also handles some of the stormwater drainage. The new dining commons would probably have outdoor seating that faces onto that, so it's a great amenity that comes down through that part of the campus. At the very north end, there's facilities, and Yasuda Hall is where we'd planned for the new Discovery Park. The campus has been having discussions with the County Sheriff's Department for putting a public-public partnership together to bring a crime lab onto the campus, much like they did at Cal State LA, which could be pretty exciting. And again, that would be kind of at the terminus of Coyote Walk. Yasuda Hall, there's still some room here for some expansion. We're thinking perhaps that becomes an alumni center at that end of the campus. And then childcare would be moved into a location where they could expand. This is roughly would house about 200 children. The size you need for that is about 100 square feet, indoor and outdoor, for each child. So this provides that kind of space. We have a drop-off area in this parking lot, so you could drop off your children and then go park easily. I want to go a little bit into detail about the College of Extended Learning expansion, which is one of those near-term projects that Jeff mentioned. And it's exciting because of the time frame. It's already in process, so by expanding it, we won't necessarily slow that down, and it could be in place in as little as 2 years, maybe a little longer. And this is kind of from the library, looking at the site that we have recommended, which is between College of Education and Science. It would be right in here, and this is kind of that location. You can see it's just across from the new Student Union expansion and Fowle Library expansion, and kind of in really the heart of the campus. So those shared classrooms would be in an ideal spot. And then the international students, of course, would be also drawn into the main campus. I know there's a little detail, but there's about 35,000 assignable square feet that's required in the CEL expansion. If we expand the building to about 45,500, we can get 10,000 ASF, or assignable square feet, for campus-wide use. That's probably a 250-seat lab, classroom, a couple of 100-seat classrooms, and then maybe 4 or 5 smaller ones of 50 or 40 or 50. That, we haven't decided on the exact program for that, but that 10,000 would roughly accommodate that number of facilities. This is its location. You can see it's kind of in the heart of things. There's a courtyard that gets created just to the north of it that we see as having this fantastic view of the mountains. And then if a future science building comes in, it creates a sort of another courtyard that continues the ones that are already in the science complex. The idea is that there may be an orchard here along this side of College of Education, where those barrel cactuses are right now, and right next to SMU expansion and the library expansion. Just a quick sketch. The idea would be that there was a passageway through. It would have a glazed screen so we could protect it from the wind, but you could see through and pass through the building into the parking and into the courtyard beyond. And just the flavor of some of those things along Coyote Walk that we're looking at. We talked about this in the last forum, a series of perhaps solar panel shaded structures that are tall enough so you can have food service underneath. You can even have trees underneath, and they connect buildings and provide these outdoor shaded spaces. It also could be in shade trees like this, or more sort of desert type plant material that provide shade but are less water use intensive. And then I wanted, before we finish, I'd like to talk a little bit about this downtown center that the President mentioned earlier. The one building that we're looking at is on East Street, right here. And it's connected to this parking structure here with, actually has a bridge on the 3rd floor from the parking structure directly into the building. The building, I mean, we kind of tried to identify what else is around this. Obviously, you don't want to just be in some place that's away from everything else. And there are quite a few services that are available. Restaurants, food of various kinds. It's right next to, just if you don't know where it is, this is City Hall. This is the old Ramada Inn here. And by the way, the SBX stop, the high-speed bus that goes back and forth to the campus in about 20 minutes is right, the stop is just across the street. So it seems like an excellent location. There's just a close-up of that. The building itself is about 19,000 square feet per floor. That's gross. But you'd get all 3 floors, if you got the whole building, about 37,000 square feet total, which is a lot of space. What uses go out there is still a question mark, but we're investigating that as we go on. But this is the building from the eye level, and you know, with a little, these are some of Jonathan's creative ideas about how to kind of create it as a visible center that has a presence in the downtown, and I think all of that is distinctly possible. Kind of a total, I wanted to give you a total sense of how much space we are thinking we may be able to dig out from all these various components. First of all, I mentioned the new CEL, about 10,000 signable square feet there. Now, CEL currently has a number of functions scattered around the campus. That totals to about 9,200 square feet, so obviously that would be freed up and could be reused. And then there's about 4,000 or about 4 classrooms in the College of Education that they have suggested they could share because they're not using them now. So those are actually being converted as we speak, or in the process of being converted. So those will come on fairly quickly. By the way, these are sort of estimated time frames when they may come online. And given that a typical project normally takes 7 to 8 years in the CSU system, these are really amazingly short-term time frames. So that's really positive. The last thing is the new downtown satellite, which I mentioned would be about 37,000 ASF. The reason it might take so long is because they're doing a seismic retrofit on the City Hall, and they need to occupy the building for the next 24 months. But after that, if we can strike a deal, that might be an available asset that the campus could utilize. So that's our show. I wanted to if you'll bear with me a second, I want to get out of this and go to the little fly-through. It's very short, but I think it's very instructive. Let's see here. Did it work? Yeah, there it is. Okay. So this is, again, an overview, and if it makes you dizzy, close your eyes in between the transitions.
It's too fast.
It's a little fast. We'll correct all of that as we go along, but we can't slow it down. We can stop it, but we can't slow it down. So here is that first view I showed you earlier, coming into the campus with the new housing, maintaining this kind of view of Flower Library with University Hall and the new Performing Arts, and the turnaround drop-off area. Now we're kind of flying around so that we're looking back to the north, again along the new Sycamore Walk with housing all along the walkway there. And this is kind of the connecting east-west pathway that goes all the way up through near Education and the new park and the existing parking structure up here.
Yeah, I think Richard and I were talking earlier about, what we're doing with the housing in the front of campus as really honoring what is the best part of campus, which is this common out here. That's the best asset in terms of landscape. So if we can frame it, set it up, and create a more graceful entry into campus, it's really building upon what we have.
This is the new south housing. This would be the phase 1 and the dining hall beyond. And then this would be infilled here, taking out Serrano Hall Village. This is the existing commons. And so this is the existing commons. This is health. And the idea is that you create sort of a residential quad here framed by housing that brings you down to Sycamore Walk, and so you could come there, go directly over into this, to the SMSU. Now we're coming up to the southern terminus, if you will, of the Coyote Walk. And here we have the expansion of the rec center here with the pool in the courtyard. The walkway is right here, so the idea is that this is kind of a terminus. You then can slide off and go over to the parking structure and the athletic fields beyond. This is another phase of housing, the dining here, they have outdoor seating that fronts out onto the plaza here. This is the current phase 1 housing here, and of course this is Jack Brown. Now we're kind of dizzying around, looking north now along Coyote. And again, these are the same images you saw earlier. So this is the SU expansion, library expansion, the new CEL building. This is College of Education and Behavioral Sciences here. A new academic building here that could be tied to business.
Yeah, and again, in our conversation before we started today, what excites me about some of these spaces is that what we have now is kind of a monoculture of just grass. And grass is great, but it takes a lot of water and you can't do a whole lot with it. And so what we're looking at is differentiating the different landscapes on campus as you add to campus and as we get, I think I'm fine here too. And so you can see in this view, we've got these collaboration courtyards in the back, which are kind of joinery between some of the new buildings, be it a lab or a classroom across that courtyard from each other. And, if you can reformat Coyote Walk, expand the pavement, create permeable paving with better shading, cafes facing it, classroom buildings facing that, you've got people spending more time on campus studying outdoors in shade. And at a junction like this down here, you've got this urban trail, which is kind of realignment of that road as a pedestrian access from new parking structures. You've got students doing 3 things at 3 points in their day, meeting right at the student union. So really, this could be a kind of busy intersection, a kind of downtown CSUSB.
So we just went over behavioral sciences. We're kind of standing on the roof there, looking into this new academic quad just to the east of the arts complex here. This would be an expansion of the museum with kind of this ground floor lobby study area that's right along Coyote Walk. And this may be arts, it could be a classroom building, this may very well be science, this could be another classroom building in the future. This would be a new dining commons facing onto this urban trail that we have here, and then the second housing village here, so that we're beginning to activate now the northern part of the campus, which is currently relatively unpopulated. And then beyond, at the very terminus, you see the Discovery Park here. And again, a parking structure at the terminus there with an elevator tower that's lighted at night. Looking back down Coyote Walk from, you would be right above this potential sheriff's office crime lab or whatever the joint project might be there.
I think a preoccupation we've had as designers is to really create a series of gateways with clear entries, better accessibility into campus, and also a better sense of arrival and departure at either end of Coyote Walk, which is kind of an embedded asset. So we're really obviously trying to put a good piece of programming, be it the rec center or the Discovery Park or potentially the Sheriff's Crime Lab at this end, with accessibility to those parking structures. Something I wanted to interject about here is the amount of parking structure in that upper corner is something I hear people talk about, and parking is on everyone's mind every morning. And I think we've seen a potential drawing for roadway connection around campus to complete the Circle Road. So we know the city is seriously considering that. And there is a lot of capacity on that loop road. So putting parking structure capacity in the back corner there makes a lot of sense in freeing up the ability of ourselves to look better at the community in the front.